Hi, class, and welcome to Chapter 6. Chapter 6, we're going to get into management and leadership in today's organization. This is something that is ever changing because as we have more diversification within our companies, we have to have different ways of, let's say, managing people. The old school of just go to work, show up on time, get your work done, and go home is a thing of the past. Now we're dealing with motivating employees. We're dealing with more incentive packages. We're dealing with, let's say a variety of challenges as managers that we didn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And that's good. And in some cases, it could be bad. So we're going to open up the chapter and take a peek as to the best ways to handle some of the ever changing, let's say, landscape of being a manager and a leader. We're going to get into describing the challenges and the changes occurring today in the management function. Describe the four functions of management. We're going to relate the planning, process, and decision making to the accomplishment of company goals. How are they relatable? Describe the organization function of management. Explain the difference between leaders, managers, and describe the various leadership styles. Then we'll finally get into summarizing a little bit here and there the 5 steps of the control function of management. 5 steps are involved there. And just a reminder, these are always my mini lectures. There's the ones that's just going to capsulate or basically give you a spotlight on what's going to be actually presented in the rest of the chapter and the rest of the PowerPoints. And so as I've said before, I cover roughly about maybe 15 to 20 slides because there's easily 80 slides. But I want you at your leisure to go through and see the rest of the PowerPoint as well as review the textbook chapters and check out some of the videos that may be in our canvas. Sheena Wright, CEO of United Way of New York. The United Way of New York started in 1938 and it was established to fight against poverty that was occurring in New York City back in the 1900s. Sheena Wright actually is the very first woman CEO of the United Way of New York. That's huge. She grew up in South Bronx. She was a gifted student and athlete and very passionate about being an advocate. She was initially a corporate lawyer. Then she actually found her way to the nonprofit sector. Wright transformed the UWNYC into an activist organization and developed its own social programs and charitable funds. In other words, she went out there and said, we're going to start supporting our community. We're going to fight for people. We're going to hopefully bring people out of poverty. And we're also going to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. Good for you, Miss Wright. See if we can name this company. This company basically, first of all, staffing is one of the key components of having continuity within any company. You want to keep the same employees, hopefully happy, productive, and loyal to your company. This is one of the key components because one of the most expensive things to do is to onboard employees. You've got to do the background check, you've got to go through references, you've got to hire them, then you start the training process. And if they don't work out in that little 3-month probational period, unfortunately, you let them go. And then the whole process starts all over again. So here's the key. Here's the key that when you are a manager and you are running your own company, you've got to make sure that you have some kind of amazing formula in place. If you don't have an amazing formula in place to, let's say, sustain and retain your employees, you're going to have a problem with your company's continuity. So this company has gourmet chefs who actually cook up lunches, dinners, snacks for its employees. That's amazing. This company also offers massage therapy and has an on-site gym, amongst other perks. Now, I can think of a company here in San Diego that does that. It's called Illumina. One of my colleagues years ago worked for the company, and she took me there on a little tour, and I was blown away. We went from building to building, have like 5 buildings, and they are a biotech firm, and it's up in the Sereno Valley. We went and I saw things I never saw in companies. I saw volleyball courts. I saw horseshoe pits. I saw barbecue pits right outside of each building. They have an on-site daycare. They have a gourmet chef, whatever you want. They cook right there in front of you. And when she took me there, I wanted to make sure I covered my own lunch. And she goes, no, it's covered. I'm like, why? She goes, it comes out of my salary. And this is one of the benefits. It's not much that comes out of it, but the amount of food that they provide us with is phenomenal. I was blown away. Going back to this though, which company do you think that this slide speaks to? They're located in Silicon Valley. I think I heard someone say it. Google. Google is the company. Google has a reputation for knowing exactly how to manage their employees and to support their employees and to make sure that they have a great deal of continuity. I was saying to a friend of mine that have you noticed when we go to Costco here in San Diego that you still see the same people for 10, 15, 20 years? Now that's phenomenal. That means that the task of staffing is not as critical because of the fact that they have the same staffing folks day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And that speaks mounds of the management. That speaks mounds of the organizational structure that believes in their employees. I was blown away. And I'm always blown away when I go to Costco and I say, hi, Connie. You know, she works right there in the Chula Vista Costco, and she's always one of the folks that check your little receipt on the way out. I've known her for 20 years. And that really tells me they must enjoy their job. But manager roles are also evolving because you can't have the old school structure of just have the employees come to work, do their jobs, and go home. Now we have a whole different dynamic that occurs in the workplace, from emotional stability to daycare, childcare, spousal. It's so many things that, as a manager, we have to be able to make those adjustments and we have to evolve. That's why actually the roles of managers are constantly evolving. They tend to be collaborative now. A lot of managers at first worked in silos. They kept to themselves. They knew what they were doing in their own companies. They didn't need to reward, let's say various departments and or their own employees because they were in their mentality years ago was you're lucky to have a job. So be quiet, shut up and come to work. Wow. Now we also are emphasizing teams and team building. That's why in college a lot of you have group activities, you have student projects, you have things that allow you to understand how important it is to get along with others from different backgrounds, diversification within a group setting. Because in companies, you're going to be working in groups. You're going to have team projects. So college is getting you ready for the real world, and that's phenomenal. Guide, train, support, motivate, and coach employees. That's another evolving role. You're going to guide, you're going to train, you're going to support, and motivate is one of the key words as well. When I was in the Navy for 20 years, my motivation was making sure that I led by example and that I try to be a transformational leader, which means I try to transform my work environment into a healthier environment, into a more solid environment, and one that actually respected all. Now, in the military, you have rank and you have the opportunity to, let's be in charge, but the biggest task is making sure that these people support you during wartime. You need them to say, I've got your back. So that's kind of a basic premise of how the military worked. And it also lends itself to some of the things you'll need in employment. You have to realize you depend upon these employees. Have you been in a situation where you're working a 10-hour shift, so to speak, say at McDonald's or Taco Bell, and your replacement or your relief doesn't show up? That just burns you because you're so ready to go home after a 10-hour shift. And your manager says, what? Can you stay another hour or 2 hours? Or can you cover the next shift? We'll pay you overtime. No, that is goes back to the motivation, and then being a coach. You're going to coach that person who decided to come in late or didn't show up for their shift. It's a whole new role. Also, we need to be skilled communicators and team leaders. That's really important because if you don't communicate effectively, you're going to constantly have a lot of problems because your employees won't know what to do, they won't know what you would like them to do, and they won't know your expectations. Even though it's spelled out, let's say, in the job description or it's spelled out in the rules and regulations of employees, everyday communication isn't effective for you to be actually wanting them to fulfill a role within a team. And also, you need to be globally prepared. Managers now need to be globally prepared. What does that mean? Globally prepared? Do you travel the world? No. What it means is be ready for global influences. Be ready for things that normally don't affect your company that will affect it now, which means AI, which means automation. That's huge right now. Automation. One of the places I frequent, which is Target, I'm a little bit more leery, to go to Target now because of the fact that they no longer have the, it's called, what is it, equity, inclusion, and whatever the acronym is. They no longer feel they have to, let's say, fulfill that obligation of making sure all employees are comfortable and safe and respected, thanks to President Trump. So So rather than telling employees exactly what to do, let's talk about empowering employees. I think when I was again in the military, also when I was a vice president of a private university, and also just as a professor, I constantly try to empower my students, my staff, or my employees to take the initiative. Go do something you think will improve, let's say, our policies, the way we do things, or even maybe something we cook when I had my comedy clubs and when I had my catering companies. So empowerment allows you to build a level of trust within your employees where they don't feel you are a micromanager. And that's a term I never want to be associated with, a micromanager. So managers today tend to give their employees enough independence to make their own decisions and informed decisions about the best way to please a customer. That's important. That's paramount. Because the worst thing you want to do is go to, let's say, Target or Taco Bell or anywhere, and the person that's helping you can't solve your problem. It could be just a matter of ordering extra, let's say, sour cream on your taco, and they have to go get the manager. Or you're at the register and the person realizes you have the wrong product or your product is overpriced. Again, empowerment. That person should be able to know what to do, how to do, and feel comfortable making a decision and say, well, here, let's give you a $10 gift card for when you come back. You can get a discount. So how do you think most employees respond to this empowerment on the job? My experience is they love it. When I walk by and I just say, when I was having my catering company and I'd see everything's going well, I'd always give a compliment and I wouldn't correct my staff in front of anybody. And so I'd always say, hey, next time you might want to lay out, the lettuce on this particular table, or you might want to put some of the udon or some of the other items, in a cold dish or something. Empowerment is huge. So here's the four functions of management. You got the planning stage, organizing stage, the leading stage, and the controlling stage. The process used to accomplish organizational goals are through these four entities. So what's happening in the planning stage, organizing stage, leading stage, and controlling stage? Well, planning, we're going to say it's got to be, planning, setting goals. We have in my other class, which is the Business 121, we have my students actually create goals for themselves, which would be short-term, long-term, and intermediate. And this is what all companies try to do. In terms of planning, we also make benchmarks as managers. What would we like to see happen in 3 months, okay, which is quarterly, in 6 months, and so forth. Developing strategies to reach our goals. I think what happens is even though we do the planning, we still have to make adjustments as we go along. Determining resources. What resources are we going to be needing and setting precise standards? How do we want to get this done? We want to get it done minimum. We want to get it done very professionally. Very important in the planning stage. Then we get into organizing. Or how's it going to come about? How are we going to make it move forward? Organizing. We're going to prepare in the structure itself, organizational chart. Who's in charge? I know what I appreciated when I used to do group activities when I was working on my master's and my doctorate is I liked when we knew who was in charge. Like the person at the top, which was like say the number one student, they would be in charge of laying out the PowerPoint. Number two student, maybe they identify that they're going to do all the research. Another person is going to look at graphics. They're going to do maybe some of the references. That's how you organize it. Exactly how you would do a company. Organize every bit of it. Allocation of resources. What are you going to need? Assign tasks. And I always say, make sure you identify the skill sets of each person you're working with so you can put them in the right job. Then we get into leading. Leading, basically, you are guiding and motivating the employees along the, let's say, the proverbial path for success to accomplish the goal. And the final stage is the controlling. You're measuring the results. How can we control this? It's not a hypothesis. We actually are doing something for the company. We're going to make sure that we have to measure the results. And we're going to monitor performance related to the standards, reward outstanding performance. That's really important because I've been in so many situations where one person worked amazingly well, while others just kind of came along. And then we're going to take corrective action, which means we're going to adjust, overcome, and improvise if something went wrong in terms of us going through the planning, organizing, leading, and then controlling. So it's so important, I feel, that when you see people come from an educational background and they become a CEO, which is Chief Executive Operating Officers, where do they come from? How do they achieve their, let's say, knowledge base, their skill levels? Here's an example. Ranked 1 through 10, University of Wisconsin produced 14 CEOs here in the United States. Harvard, Cornell, University of Michigan, and so forth. You look through this list and you're wondering, hey, where's my school at? Or I don't see anyone that is from my university. Like I'm at San Diego State University. It's not on the list. We got University of Michigan. We've got there's University of California. So the point is, each university specifically specializes in producing leaders. And this is a good example. Number 10, Yale University. You would think Yale will be up there by Harvard, but that means that they aren't training our next generation of CEOs. Planning process, we covered a little bit of that. You know exactly how that goes about. Here's a little test prep for you. What are some of the changes happening in management today? More of the changes I've seen is more communicative, more collaborative, and also more training for the staff. So what is the definition of management used in this chapter? We know that the definition of management is a process to accomplish organizational goals through planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. What are the four functions of management? We talked about the four functions. The functions are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Planning and decision making, that they follow hand in hand. Planning and decision making continue. Get the outline. Think of the company, what they really want to do. The organization's self concept, its philosophy, its long-term survival needs, its customer needs, its social responsibility, key. Chapter 5 spoke about that. And the nature of its products or services. Planning and organizing and planning and decision making is part of everything that a company needs to do to accomplish their goals. What is the situation now? SWOT, the analysis, a planning tool used to analyze an organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Threats isn't key. That's key. Right now, a lot of companies are being threatened by AI. One company in particular is Uber, Lyft, because of what? Those self-driving cars. I just got back from San Francisco on a 5-day trip, and I saw those, I think they're called Waymos everywhere. And they weren't just little small taxis. They had big vans. Now that's scary. Self-driving. So how do you get our goals from here? How do you get to our goal from here? It's a strategy. It's going to be tactical, operational, and contingency planning. Contingency planning means you're going to be prepared for what might happen, the what ifs. We'll cover some of this. I want you to actually look at the rest of the PowerPoint so that you get more of a dynamic, let's say, insight into potential internal threats, potential internal weaknesses, potential external opportunities, and potential external threats. All key to SWOT. Blank planning involves development of detailed short-term statements about what is to be done, who is to do it, and how. Is that considered our tactical, strategic, contingency, or operational planning? Think it through. It involves the development of detailed short-term statements. I would think all of you should be saying the word tactical. All right. I wanted to go past those PowerPoints because I want you to review them at your leisure. And at this point, this is the end of the mini lecture. And I want to make sure that you realize that I give you a snapshot, but it's up to you to look at the rest of it. Take your time with it. You can pause the video and actually look through the PowerPoints. And don't forget the PowerPoints are available to you in the Canvas as PowerPoints exclusively, not as a video. So you have time to stop, pause, and do some research and take some notes. With that said, guys, I'll see you in 2 minutes and 2 seconds into the next chapter. Chapter 7 is coming up.